Normally we would pause for a station of identification, but we don't have any sponsorship, and I don't want to pay tribute to any corporations since, well, I can barely afford to exist anyways. Not that the corporations have helped me with that in the past, but you were saying...
True, yeah.
But,
no, I was just saying that I think more than a race of minds, as it should be, you know, people competing with their minds, I think it's people competing with their resumes and what the corporations want to see.
Well, yes, the base more on what the corporations and the power, the people that have the money have the power. It's not necessarily survival of the most intelligent. People apply themselves with the resumes, but it's basically like the person with has the most money, like you said, the corporations.
Yeah,
they
dictate everything.
More than survival of the most intelligent, survival of the most rich, I guess is. So it's, idealistically, you'd want it to be more survival of
the mind.
Mind was that we'd want to evolve to that idealistically. Yes.
But then the question would arise, you know, how do you support the needs of vast amounts of populations with, you know, just using minds? But I think that's where people are wrong, because with the mind comes so many new ways of supporting large amounts of humanity, such as, you know, growing food. You know, you start stacking greenhouses,
but
and it really starts to get a lot easier.
I think it comes down to just competing for a limited amount of resources.
And a limited amount of land.
It forces people to compete just, for the limited amount of resources. If there are more people than there are resources, that's obviously going to be in a balance.
That's going to be bad, yeah.
So it's a matter of finding a balance between chaos and organization, nature and man-made evolutionary societies and technological involvement and that kind of thing. But, you know, they keep raising the cost of living, and then they're saying, you know, they can only raise minimum wage at a certain point. But it makes me wonder if, has anyone ever tried thinking of keeping the cost of living the same instead of, just because you raise the price of everything else, but you don't raise minimum wage more than 25 cents more here and there? You know, why not raise the minimum, you know, what's to keep, that doesn't necessarily mean the cost of things have to go up either. If you kept the cost of everything the same...
Oh, of course they do, though!
As if the population
because the corporations can tell the people that the cost of living had to go up because government is just swarming them.
The CEOs that...
Oh, they are poor. They need that money.
But
they need
do they really?
squeeze us.
They convince us, it's almost like we believe...
Absolutely. They are poor, living in shacks.
No, they need their mansions. You know, they convince us that our minimum wage has to remain a certain level so they can have their mansions and their big pools. You know, that's what they really need. And they make more, by keeping the poor less and more powerless, they can make more. That's the only... They drive that company.
You don't like being a serf? I love being a serf in the corporate world. But yeah, you see...
but the barter system can fluctuate. They demand the price, and they do take the standards, and then say that raising the minimum wage was bad, or keeping the cost of living. They're the ones who dictate the cost of everything. If corporations didn't keep raising it, they wouldn't have to keep raising the cost. You know, it wouldn't fluctuate so much. We could have more of an equal distribution in a barter system, I would think. It would be... It doesn't have to be that way, you know, if there were a barter system. It wasn't based on Republican...
Yeah, I mean, people generally, I mean, if you didn't have the corporate structures and the governmental structures, how would people, you know, trade? And I think that goes back to the roots of economics before structured economics came commonplace, you know, was bartering and finding people, trading back and forth, developing your own things as a community. Go back to the Americas, go back to India, go back to ancient China, go back to ancient Greece and their tradings with the Mesopotamia and Mediterranean world. You know, I think it can prosper. It just now we're so gridlocked in a certain structured system that in order to set up a new system, there would have to be almost a destruction of the old. So that would be the question.
But there couldn't be complete anarchy. There's always a revolution that comes about. This country was founded by revolutionaries.
Exactly.
And that's why I think it's kind of hypocritical.
We're heading
they try to
towards
regulate
another revolution.
Yes, you can't control everything. I mean, if they try to control people with fear, fear is always the best way to
government. Propaganda's great. Look at Fox News.
People can always think for themselves, too. The more intelligent people think for outside of the box. You don't have to always go away with what they're saying that you need to buy. You could cut it down to what you basically... what you need instead of what they say you need.
It's more of a wants versus needs society now, and it's more of a waste versus conserve society, and now we're having a hard time with that because our environment is literally down the tubes.
Well,
and people don't have the education or the know-how because it's been culturally set up as a structure, as a mode of living to waste.
Well, even the people that do have the education,
there's a waste culture.
Even the people that do have the education,
they don't do it.
They don't have the power to change things because the corporations limit what they can do with their education. But what the 1% versus the 99%, except as means of making money, because it seems like it shouldn't have to come down to money. Businesses shouldn't be forced to care about their employees. Their employees would want to work harder for the corporation if the corporation cared about them, not because they're forced to care about them, but then to be treated like one person's worth more or less than $7 or $8 an hour, while other people get benefits that it depends. You don't really have an equal distribution.
Well, I mean, yeah, $7-8 an hour doesn't buy anything now in today's America, though, because of fuel prices.
Because the corporations always seem like they have to raise the prices. That's why I don't know why they don't keep them the same.
How am I supposed to make any money with gas of $3.90?
Well, I think maybe philosophically, if the population didn't expand exponentially, if the population remained in even numbers, they could keep the cost of things the same. And maybe there would be more equal distribution.
But that's not humanly possible. Humans reproduce, so that's...
It depends on the rate at which... if the reproduction rate exceeds the rate of the limited resources, that's when you have a problem. That's when the rise of the cost of living, that's probably one of the reasons. It might not just be the corporations, although the corporations can't keep up with it, even though there are, other ways.
Corporations, there's enough resources for the world right now. It's just the way it's distributed is you can look at graphs, world income, and 200, 300 people or families have more wealth than all of the impoverished and all of the middle class combined. Basically,
there's a handful of
crazy.
1% of CEOs that have
1%.
way too much wealth. They have their mansions. They have
like
to take airplane flights to go from one city to the next. Where that cost could easily be more distributed, to someone who works physically at a hard labor job that doesn't get rewarded as enough. It doesn't have that kind of benefit.
Yeah, and I think that also that conservatives have ran the incentive thing. Oh, well, that destroys incentive. Well, what's the incentive for the CEO? And then you see in these CEOs, they just come in and get the job. It's not like...
Well, they work hard to get it, but then once they get a seat. I don't know why they get paid more. If they get a seat they get to sit in. It doesn't cost them as much physical pain as the workers that are doing physical labor. It seems like you should reward people that are working physically harder more. They make the decisions. They have more of an intellectual burden and pressure, but at the same time, it's not going to... decrease their lifespan. And become as much of a day.
But then you just hold on. But
jelly beans. I'm hungry for some jelly.
Well, I don't know. I think you contradicted yourself. Can you explain? I'm kind of...
Why? Because I was hungry for jelly beans. I didn't say a specific brand or anything. But anyways, no. I contradicted myself about what?
I don't know. It seemed like, well, if you pay the workers more, wouldn't that destroy the mines to the top?
Oh, well, I wasn't necessarily saying pay the hard workers more than the ones that are risen to the top. Unless the ones that have risen to the top, they feel like there's this elitist attitude that they deserve to be there. They work just as hard, if not more, on an intellectual level to take extra training to get to that point.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you shouldn't keep it so different to where the hard laborers make barely enough to survive anyway, and the people at the top make so much more.
Exactly.
That's just not necessarily
or the
equally
people,
distributed.
they don't have any way, they're making so little now, the laborers, that they don't, there should be free-flowing social structures.
Yes.
Meaning that one class free flows to another class, and it'd be easy flow. That's a good structure for a society, a class system. Here now, there's no way to get up a social strata or a class strata because you're so locked economically. And that's a big problem. We have to figure out how to get our people, the people of the world, more free-flowing from classes.
That's how a person with a college degree could be redundantly forced into physical hard labor over and over again, make less the more they work, harder they work than a person who is
intellectually dead.
Not necessarily because maybe they're misplaced because their skills aren't recognized in the correct manner. But, and
then getting a job, it's a great scam nowadays because the only jobs that the corporations want are the uncreative jobs.
Yeah,
so
so
now
a
you
lot of
go to
people
college.
be-
Yeah, you go to college and you want to get a creative degree. No, everybody will tell you no because you're not going to find a job. Of course, you're not going to find a job because they don't want you to find a job because there is no jobs anymore because they don't want you to have the creative jobs.
Well, the creative
Yeah.
jobs are necessarily, it's more the structure, the way they dictate how the money is made.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, I mean, they teach you to be like an individual. A lot of times in college when you graduate, you don't necessarily get a higher paying job. They say you can make more money, but that's misleading. The bureaucracy of the college receives all the money from you paying to go there. And then once you're out on your own, you're back to square one competing with everyone else on the ground level, entry level jobs. There's no extra incentive. They've already made that much more money out of you, but you're not necessarily rewarded financially. You're just back to square one, unless you get a job in the field. But even an entry level position in the field might be around the same rate of basic pay as if you didn't go to college. So it's almost the economic rewards are not balanced. I mean, it's like, what's the incentive? I mean, they say you have to compete harder, so the people that rise to the top are the ones that compete the hardest. But that only rewards competition. That turns people against each other instead of people intellectually involved almost have to learn to think for themselves outside of the box and solve problems in a creative way. That's they take humanity out of it when they make everything structured and robotic, like a monotonous work process. Instead of letting you be yourself, and then you can. A lot of times problems are solved by more individual creative thinking anyway. So, yes. So we should pause for a station identification. First, let's hear it from the band. Okay.